Hey there, I'm Lefty and welcome to Best of the Backroads. Today I got my hands on a Versys 300X. I'm going to tell you what I think. Let's get to it. The Versys 300 did not follow me home. It's not my bike. It's a 2017 with 1,000 miles, so it's basically brand new. Most of my bikes follow more on the dirt side of motorcycling lately. However, in the past, most of my riding's been street riding. I've wanted to try the Versys 300 for a while, and I've got an opportunity to do it. Many of you have seen some of my videos before, know I have about 100K multi-surface route that I ride. We're gonna take the Versys 300 on that, see how she shakes out. I have to admit, in addition to the Versys 300X, I'm probably a little bit more excited about this girl here. Her name's Ray, and is a new addition. It's actually my son's pup, so I get the best of all worlds being the puppy granddad. All the pleasure, none of the pain. Isn't she cute? Last year, Sid bought her first motorcycle, a Honda Trail 125. At the time, I said that Honda wasn't on my short list for a new rider. This week, I had an opportunity to ride one of the bikes that was on my list for a new adventure rider. I thought I'd share my review with all of you. This is the little brother to the Versys 650 and 1000 that Kawasaki developed in order to add a small displacement adventure bike to their portfolio. Big Green dubbed this the Versys X. Versys is short for Versatile Systems. They added the X to signify this model has off-road capability. The elusive search for the motorcycle equivalent of a unicorn, a bike that can be used on the highway and on dirt back roads. At $6,000 new and under 400 pounds, this is the type of bike that is appealing to new riders and adventure riders alike. The little Versys looks like a road-oriented machine first and foremost. The power plant used is the 296cc parallel twin motor that graced the older Ninja 300. It's a solidly reliable engine. That Ninja engine would open highways to Sid that her Trail just can't manage. However, this isn't too big of an engine and won't get a new rider into trouble. As an aside, I always recommend a new rider start out with a used bike. Good deals on newer bikes with low miles are still out there, and a good deal on that used bikes lets someone else pay for the first drop. This bike sits low with a seat height of 32 inches. That's low and rider friendly. New riders are often intimidated by off-road machines that have high saddle heights. At 5'6" and a 29-inch inseam, Sid can almost flatfoot this bike. It's a high-revving engine, surprising in a bike expected to handle off-road work. But right now, it feels light and nimble on the highway. The engine is impossibly smooth, and once you get used to the sound of 10,000 explosions gone off a minute under your ass, the ride itself is nice. It also means the engine wants to pull at higher revs. The bike starts making good power at 7,000 RPMs and happily gets better and better up to the red line of 12,000 RPMs. This bike travels at 75 miles an hour, no problem, cruising nicely at that speed. Top speed is just over 100, but just barely. There is a light buzz to the foot pegs, but hardly detectable in a motorcycle boot. Speaking of smooth, the clutch pull is the lightest I've ever felt. I've hydraulic clutches that exhibited more resistance. The 6-speed gearbox is a bit stiff, but this particular bike has under 1,000 miles, so I'm betting it'll loosen up with a bit of time. I need to give Kawasaki kudos on a decent set of stock forks. Often on a price point bike, they're an afterthought and tend to be too soft for the road if you're bridging the gap into dirt. These forks felt good on the road. They didn't wallow and held curves nicely. Good job, Cal. So, no surprises on the road for the Versys 300, a very capable machine with a small yet spirited 300cc engine making for a fun ride. But we probably bet that would happen considering that there was a Ninja 300 out for a long time that was very popular. Kelly also wanted to make it light torque capable. In that spirit, the small windscreen provides above average protection from the elements. Lots of wind was blocked up front, yet my head wasn't buffeted around like a piñata. And at 5'10", almost 5'11", I'm about average height. If you're shorter than this, it will definitely provide you protection. The plastic fairing also did a great job keeping wind off my legs while providing a barrier of heat from the engine. Included was a rear rack on the stock machine, which is a good starting platform for adding your preferred luggage. Don't overlook the value of being able to add luggage to a bike. Backpacks get old. A large 4.5-gallon tank gives the littlest Versys plenty of range for light touring, easily 250 miles plus per tank. Believe me, your ass is going to need a break prior to emptying that tank. The stock seat is just not made for long touring. But if all I wanted was a nice 300cc road bike, I'd probably stick to a Ninja or look at some other offerings in the motorcycle genre. I'm looking for a bike that will allow a new rider, Sid, to experience some off-road or at least back-road adventures and be able to make it to those adventures without a trailer. Just how versatile is this system? I took her out on a familiar 100-kilometer test run. I wanted to see how she'd handle gravel roads, dirt paths, and even light single track. The Versys only has 5.5 inches of travel and a bit over 7 inches of clearance, though she rides better than those limits suggest. Honestly, those numbers are more than enough for where most people would be willing to ride. The suspension again is a gem for the price. It tends to smooth out rough terrain very well. Medium-sized bumps are handled very nicely. At higher speeds you'll bottom out, but the bike does so softly, it's not very harsh. The downfall is you are limited to 7 inches of clearance, which means very rocky terrain or large drops are going to be the limiting factor here. Still, if you're willing to mind your speed, she performs admirably off-road. Just like any other adventure bike, I'd recommend some Farkles for off-road travels. The Versys cockpit allows for a decent standing position, but I'd rather have some aftermarket pegs as the stock ones feel skinny. A riser for the handlebar would greatly improve your standing position. The header travels under the engine, better for keeping heat away from a rider. However, it highlights the need for a bash plate, crash bars to save plastics, hand guards to save levers. The final aftermarket add would be a nice center stand for repairs on the road. Overall, Big Green put together a nice small CC package. It makes for a great commuter or light touring bike. The low seat height coupled with relative light weight keep it beginner friendly. The engine is very reliable. The bike is luggage capable. Aftermarket accessories are easily obtainable. If you're willing to be easy on the speed, it's plenty capable in the dirt. In fact, the high revving nature of the engine lends itself well to those that are new to off-road riding. It's not likely the bike will get away from you or mistakenly break traction due to the power band being so high in the rev range. So, after a couple days of playing around with this 2017 Versys 300X, would I recommend it? I'd recommend it for new to intermediate riders. It's a great bike to start out on as a motorcyclist. Not only is it manageable for a new rider, but allows a new rider to experiment with different riding styles. Commuting, the Versys can do that. Touring, yep, it can do that too. Off-road, it gives you the ability to try that out as well. Would I own it? Well, it probably doesn't have a spot in my stable, as I have a big BMW GS that fills my road touring slot and a DRZ 400 for true off-road riding. If Sid wants to move up a bike size from the Honda Trail 125, it might be the bike for her. I think it could replace her Trail and add the highway capability she is missing now. Plus, I feel certain she'd let me borrow the Versys occasionally, if I asked nicely enough. Maybe I should get her to take it out while it's here in the garage.
Mikey built a rocket, named it at the moon. Whatever he was planning, either way, it'd be almost soon. Oh, Mikey built a rocket and shot it at the moon. Watch him fly as the world spins faster and faster. You and